All right, and welcome back, guys. And with Vanguard right around the corner, I want to bring back this series and refresh it to the current state of Cold War right now. And I think this is going to be the final state. I don't think we're going to get much balance changes past this point. I don't really think anything's going to get nerfed. I don't think anything's going to get buffed. We are getting one more DLC melee weapon next week. And if that's the case, even if that gun's really good, it's only going to change the meta up from this list just a tiny bit. And I'll cover that in that video in and of itself. But here we go. In this video, we're going to list off the 15 top best weapons to use in Cold War Zombies, and I'm going to explain why to use them, and I'm going to give a full attachment setup for each and every one of them. Keep in mind, this is a little bit subjective because different things that I personally like and I think are great could be a little bit different depending on play style, what mode you're playing, what map you're playing, but we're going to try to break it down and explain it as clearly as possible for each weapon. And just like that, we're now loaded in game. One thing I got to go ahead and say right before we start this list, even though the weapon balancing has changed a lot in this game, one thing that hasn't changed is how useful NordVPN is. Quick question, do you use the internet and value your privacy? I'm pretty sure we all do. That's why I got to give a huge thanks to my friends over at NordVPN for sponsoring this video. And if you use my link down below, not only will you get a 2-year plan at a massive discount, you also get 4 extra additional months. One of the best parts about NordVPN is they have over 5,000 servers in 60 different countries or regions, so you can find a server that's really close to you to maximize your speed, or you can find one that's really far away to access blocked or restricted content in your country. So not only is NordVPN fast, it's going to help you defend against DDoS attacks, it's going to help stop malicious software infested websites, and it's also going to stop Google and your ISP from seeing what you're doing. So using a VPN, you can stay safe and have peace of mind while you're browsing or gaming. So given those reasons, and plus there's so many more, that's why you should definitely be using NordVPN. So do yourself a favor and check the link in the description below. That way you can get a 2-year subscription of NordVPN at a massive discount plus an additional 4 months, which again, got to give a massive thanks to my friends at NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Okay, and with that, let's go ahead and start this list off. Starting at the number 15 slot here, we have the Groza. And keep in mind, right now we're on round 12. I'm not going to be going to round 55 for every single weapon in this video. We've already done that for almost every weapon we're going to be showcasing today. So it wouldn't make sense to retake all these to 55 to get the gameplay footage for it. We're going off the results that were in our testing footage, but this is just background gameplay here. But yeah, talking about the Groza real quick, this has been a staple AR in Zombies ever since it was released, and this was the first DLC AR added to this game. One, it's got really good damage. It is the second highest DPS AR of all of Zombies right now, and on top of that, it's super accurate when ADSing. As you can see there, almost no recoil. But the best part of all, the reason I really like this weapon is its insane hip fire. You can hip fire this weapon while training with pretty much no issues, and you're almost always going to hit headshots. Right now, we don't even have Deadshot. This is hip firing without Deadshot on this, and Deadshot will make it a lot better. So overall, those are the reasons I love the Groza. Also got an amazing magazine count. All right, now here's the attachments I run on the Groza. For the optic, I've got the Microflex. For the muzzle, I've got the Flash Guard 7. For the barrel, we've got the 16.5 CMV. For the body, we've got the GRU 5MW. For the underbarrel, we've got the Infiltrator grip. For the magazine, we're running the bottom one. For the handle, we've got the Speed grip. And for the stock, we've got the Duster pad. All right, now for the number 14 slot, and these are only in this because of a brand new perk added in season 6, and you already guessed it, it's PhD. This is actually going to be both the Sigma and the RPG in tier 14. These weapons are both very strong, very usable, and very good now, which is not something I would have said a few months ago. A few months ago, I would have been like, yeah, you want to use the RPG and Sigma to get them gold for Dark Aether, but after that, kind of pass on them. But now, the fact that you can shoot at the ground and not damage yourself, these are actually pretty decent for high rounds. However, the reason I rank them so low all the way at the 14th tier is there is one other explosive weapon, which you probably already know what I'm talking about, that kind of puts these to shame. Just these have kind of slug and mobility, and while using them, you can't really be near as mobile. And the fact that when you go to use the Sigma, when you shoot it, it makes you ADS. It really slows you down in a lot of scenarios. The RPG doesn't do it to this bad of an extent, but the RPG just as well has some flaws in it that make it not as good as some of the other weapons that we're going to list later on in this video. And now for the attachments on the RPG and Sigma, you actually can't put any attachments on them, so they're super simple. All you got to do is equip it, and it's pretty much in the best state it could possibly. Obviously, you can put charms on it, so we're going to go ahead and put the clap back monkey charm on there just because I really like that charm. Don't mind me. Come up here, buy a little quick revive. All right, coming in at the number 13 slot, we actually have the only LMG on this entire list, that being the MG82. And yeah, in previous zombie games, the LMG category was one of the best categories in the game. But with the way Cold War works, the LMG category's kind of been left behind. The MJ82 is definitely the best one. The second best one would be the Stoner. But just because of the damage output of the MG82, I definitely prefer this one. The one downside of this weapon is it doesn't have a lot of ammo. But with Mule Kick being in the game and the fact that zombies drop ammo with Mule Kick, honestly, that negative side isn't that bad. This gun's really good for running around training zombies in hip firing. It's got really good hip fire, and just its high rate of fire makes it really good with whatever you're using on it. But yeah, so that's the MG82. Now for the attachments on the MG82, for the optic, I was running the microstop reflex. The muzzle was the flash guard. The barrel was the task force barrel. The body was the SWAT 5 MW. The underbarrel was the infiltrator grip. The magazine was the bottom one. The handle was the speed tape. And then for the stock, we are running the duster stock. Now coming in the number 12 spot, we have the OTS-9. And this is once again going to be the only SMG on this list because this is the best SMG in the game right now. And the SMG category has kind of been very confusing. Every time they seem to add a new DLC SMG, it kind of takes the top dog spot. The MAC-10, once introduced to the game, was the single best SMG in the entire game. Then after that, they introduced the OTS-9, and that was the best SMG in the game. Then after that, they introduced the Tech-9, and that was the best SMG in the game. Then the Tech-9 got nerfed, and once again, the OTS-9 is definitely the single best SMG in the entire game, just in terms of pure damage. And it's super accurate, got great hip fire, all around a very good weapon to use. And I find myself going back to the OTS-9 quite often. So that's why the OTS-9 makes the number 12th spot on this list. Now for the OTS-9, I was running the Microflex. The muzzle was the Flashguard 9. The barrel was the Task Force barrel. The body was the GRU 5MW. The underbarrel was the Patrol grip. The magazine was the very bottom one. The handle was the speed tape. And then for the stock, I was running the Duster stock. Oop, all right, here we go. Now coming in at the number 11 spot, we have a weapon that's pretty much been a top contender ever since the game launched, that being the Akimbo Magnums. At one point in time, this was actually the single best Akimbo pistols in the entire game. However, whenever they made the critical damage multiplier higher for the other pistols, it dropped a few spots in that category. However, that being said, the Akimbo Magnums are still amazing and one of the better weapons to use, especially when it comes to bosses. The amount of damage you can do per critical shot with these is actually ridiculous. You can see there, as we're taking down the Mimic, it is doing a lot of damage, especially for being only pack 1 on round 12. So I would definitely give the Akimbo Magnums a try. They're fun to use and definitely one of the better weapons. Now for the class setup I was using on the Magnum, for the muzzle, we were using the Flash Guard. For the barrel, we were running the Task Force. For the body, we were running the SWAT 5MW. For the magazine, we were running the bottom one. And for the stock, we were running the dual wield stock. All right, here we go. Now coming in at the number 10 spot, and I have a feeling this is going to be a little controversial for some people. There are some people who really love the Street Sweeper, and it definitely is a good weapon, but there are just some negative drawbacks that really make it drop a few spots on the list for me. And when this gun first launched, this was definitely one of the single worst weapons in the game. However, they buffed quite a few things about it. They buffed the damage, they buffed the reload speed, and now it is definitely a good weapon. The Street Sweeper is very powerful. However, the one negative side of this weapon is the very long reload time. If we go ahead and fully empty out this weapon, honestly, yeah, let's just go ahead, empty it out to 0. Watch how long it takes to reload this, even with Speed Cola. Here we go. Here we go. And I know what you're saying, it's not that slow, but compared to other weapons that reload almost instantly, the Street Sweeper's got a very long reload time. However, it makes up for it in damage. This weapon has insanely high damage rates, especially for bosses. It just, once you start reloading, you gotta sit and wait a while, but you can get rid of this. A lot of people, when using the Street Sweeper, they'll use it and then they'll swap to a secondary weapon, and that kind of what makes the Street Sweeper super useful. Now if we go back to the Street Sweeper, once again, it's got full bullets again. Same thing, Ring of Fire, where you don't have to reload, makes it very strong. It's just the negative side effects you get with this weapon while using it as a main weapon when you need to reload it makes it drop a few spaces for me, but it's definitely a very powerful weapon, and if used correctly, definitely one of the better weapons. Here's the class setup for the Street Sweeper. For the muzzle, we've got the Infantry V Choke, the barrel being the Task Force barrel, the body being the SWAT 5MW, the magazine being the bottom one, and the stock once again being the Duster stock. All right, and here we are coming in the number 9 spot, and we have the Gallo. Once again, this is another tier ranking list that I feel like I'm going to get a little bit of backlash for, but in my opinion, once you get to higher rounds, the Gallo just doesn't have the killing potential. There's so many other weapons that will just kill more zombies quicker than what the Gallo will. The Gallo is amazing for starting out. For earlier rounds, using the Gallo, being able to kill bosses on an earlier round, kill a bunch of zombies, it's great. but once you get up into the 50s and even higher 40s, it just doesn't have the same power that other bullet weapons have. So for me, that's why I'm personally going to be putting that in the number 9 slot. If it was able to one-shot, one-kill zombies on health cap, maybe, it's just the fact that it takes multiple shots on the higher rounds. It just doesn't really hold up. Now for the Gallo class setup, for the muzzle, we've got the infantry V choke, the barrel being the task force barrel, the SWAT 5mm for the body, the magazine being the bottom one, and the stock being the duster stock. And yeah, okay, here we are in the number 8 spot. And once again, another spot that I feel like is going to be very, very controversial. This is our final shotgun, and it is going to be the Hauer shotgun. For me, once again, a lot of what I said with the Gallo range true here. It's really good for earlier rounds, and it's amazing for outbreak. If this was strictly an outbreak list, this would be way higher up. This would almost be number 1 if this was for outbreak. But we're talking overall in Cold War Zombies, we're talking about round-based and outbreak. And because of that, in round-based, it's great on early rounds. But once again, once you get it up to those higher rounds, it just doesn't have the same killing potential you have with other weapons. The one thing this has over the Gallo is once you get to health cap, this is still a one-shot kill. It can still kill zombies in one single shot, as long as you know you're aiming pretty much center mass. If you don't hit all the shells, it's not going to one-shot kill them. So you do have to be a little bit more accurate with it, but it can still one-shot. But overall, I just find more weapons more useful in higher rounds, to be honest. Now for the class setup for the Hauer, for the muzzle, we've got the infantry V choke, the barrel being the task force barrel, the body being the SWAT 5mm, the magazine being the bottom one, and the stock being the duster pad. And all right, here we go. In the number 7 spot, we've got the old reliable, the M16. Once again, this is another weapon that's been pretty much in the meta at the top tier pretty much ever since this game launched. This is the one weapon that I use whenever I need something that's super effective at long range. The M16 is my go-to. This is definitely the best long range weapon in the game. Unfortunately, there's very few things in this game that require you doing something at long range. A lot of times, especially if you're training, camping, you're going to be killing zombies super close to you, and it's going to be more effective and more beneficial to kill the zombies. But if you're doing, an Easter egg that requires you shooting something at range or anything like that, I go to the M16. It doesn't quite have the damage as the other items in this list, but it is still super well, and I mean, it can hold itself on health cap. You take this around 55, it is going to hold its own. Very powerful, super easy to use with the recoil, and that is why the M16 has made the number 7 spot on this list. Here's the attachments for the M16. For the optic, it's the millistop. The muzzle is the flash guard. The barrel is the strike team. Very important, hands down, the attachment you want to be running on this. For the body, we've got the SWAT 5MW. The underbarrel is the infiltrator grip. The magazine being the bottom one. The handle being the speed tape. And the stock being the duster stock. All right, and here we go. Coming in at the number 6 spot, we've got the Akimbo amps. The Akimbo amps are another DLC weapon that as soon as it was introduced, pretty much a fan favorite right off the bat. These are pretty much amazing for whatever you're doing. Trading on high rounds, these things will absolutely shred zombies on health cap. Doing the Legion boss fight, these are one of the single best weapons for taking down Legion. And pretty much all around, I definitely recommend using the Akimbo amps. What sets them apart from the other pistols is the fact that they're full auto, allowing you to have a little bit more ease of use when training. You don't have to constantly pull both triggers, tiring out your hands. You can just look, aim down sight, and absolutely shred zombies holding down full auto. The one thing that's kind of a downside is the ammo count, especially when these first came out. You would run out of ammo so quickly using these. However, mule kick's a thing now, so by the time you buy mule kick, you're never going to run out of ammo. You're just going to be killing zombies. They're going to be dropping ammo, and that's pretty much going to make up for that. Now, here's the attachments for the amps. For the muzzle, it's the flash guard, the barrel, the task force, the body being the SWAT 5, the magazine, the bottom one, and the stock, of course, the dual wield stock. All right, we have now made our way into the top 5. These are the top 5 best weapons currently in Cold War Zombie, and coming in at the number 5 slot being the FFAR. Unlike other weapons in this list, the FFAR always hasn't been that great in zombies. There's actually guides that I made a long time ago where I referenced the FFAR being one of the worst weapons in zombies, and somehow people are still getting recommended those videos from 7 months ago. People watch the video and leave me nasty comments like, yo, what are you talking about? The FFAR isn't garbage. I don't know why you're so hard on it. It's actually really good. I use it all the time. That's because it's received almost 3 pretty significant buffs since then, taking it from being the worst AR in zombies to hands down being the single best AR. The massive fire rate this weapon has makes it so it has almost no negative effect from damage rounding as you go to higher rounds. It's really good on lower rounds, and it's even a wall map on both Firebase Z and Forsaken, meaning you can spawn in with, a melee weapon and pick this bad boy off the wall. It is definitely the single best wall weapon you can find on the wall. Nothing really compares to this, especially when you get it to higher rounds. And it's super effective for training too. It's got really good hip fire now. At launch, it had pretty bad hip fire, but that's one of the things that got buffed. As you can see there, the hip fire on this is really good. So if you're training with high rounds using it, and if you haven't tried out the FFAR, you definitely should. It is easily the best full auto weapon in the game, and you will not regret giving it a try. For the FFAR class setup for the optic, we got the microflex, the muzzle being the flash guard, the barrel being the task force, the body being the SWAT 5, the underbarrel being the infiltrator grip, the magazine being the bottom one, the handle being the speed tape, and the stock being the duster stock. Okay, now sliding in to the number 4 spot, we've got the Akimbo Sais, and these are the newest addition to this list. And even though they do half the damage of other melee weapons, they're still extremely powerful, enough so to be the 4th best weapon in the entirety of Cold War Zombies right now. One, you've got this insane knifing speed, and this allows you to camp in some pretty ridiculous spots, just knifing zombies to a fairly high round. And like any melee weapon, it is actually useful even when you get to health cap, because you can use this melee weapon to get ammo mods with any sort of wonder weapon. So you can use the ray gun, and with the ray gun, you can pretty much use dead wire as long as, oh, well, I don't know why you'd want to use dead wire. You could use shatter blast with the ray gun, using the melee weapons, having it as a secondary. But the most special part about it is it allows you to slide farther and more efficient than any other melee weapon in the game. Just looking at this right here, the movement speed you get with this, especially spawning in on early rounds or outbreak, you get a huge movement bonus, and it's super good for when you go down. Let's say you're going to, you know, round 100, you're using the ray gun, you end up going down, you can pull these bad boys out, and even without stamina, you can quickly slide across the map to be able to buy your perks back or whatever you need to buy, and they are just extremely powerful for late game recoveries. Now for the class setup on the Sai, since it's a melee weapon, it actually has no attachments, but here, let's go ahead and we'll put on the button charm for it. And boom, here we are at the number 3 spot. Once again, this is going to be another controversial pick. I feel like the majority of players are probably going to rank this higher than number 3. A lot of people are going to put this in the number 1 and 2 spot. Just with the recent introduction of some of the other weapons in the game, I no longer feel like this is the single best weapon to use. It's still extremely powerful, has a lot of things going for it. One, it lets you run faster than any other weapon in the game. Using the E-tool is actually faster than running with your fist, and it's quite a bit faster. Like, it's noticeably faster than the fist, and there is no other weapon you can spawn in with that's going to allow you to run this quickly. So for outbreak, setting up outbreak, it's great. Turning on the rampage inducer, it is super easy to go through all 20 rounds of the rampage inducer using the E-tool. I know some people struggle with that, but using the E-tool pretty much makes you pass it just about every time. And it allows you to use ammo mods with wonder weapons. Being on like round 70, being able to use Shatter Blast while you're using a ray gun is super powerful just because of how good Shatter Blast is, and it lets you get out of corners. I honestly think using Shatter Blast on the E-tool is more effective for reviving teammates and getting you out of corners than Aether Shroud is. In Aether Shroud, you have to charge up, whereas using, you know, the E-tool, you can use a different ammo mod. So essentially, it allows you to have, you know, your normal ammo mod and Aether Shroud pretty much at all times. And that's why it's currently in the number 3 spot. But like I said, it's no longer the single best. Then once again, for the class setup for the E-tool, it's another melee weapon, so it doesn't have any attachments, so you can just go ahead, put a charm on it, but that's about it. All right, and here we are almost at the end. Coming in at the number 2 spot, we have the Akimbo Diamatti, and out of all of the bullet weapons in the game, these have the single highest DPS. These will absolutely melt a horde on any round you go to, and if you're looking for a bullet weapon to just kill zombies as absolutely quick as possible, nothing in the game is going to do that better than the Akimbo Diamatti. These things are absolutely ridiculous. And the best part is you don't have to spawn in with these. These are a wall weapon on pretty much every single map. So you can spawn in using the E-tool or the Sai for early rounds and just buy them off the wall, equip your custom blueprint, and just get to absolutely slaying, especially for first room challenges. These are extremely good, and that's why the Diamatti's in the second place. And if you've ever used the Akimbo Diamattis, you know why they are here and just how ridiculous they are for just pure DPS. Now for the class setup on the Diamattis, for the muzzle, it's the Flash Guard 9, the barrel's a Task Force barrel, the body is the SWAT 5, the magazine being the bottom one, and the stock being the dual wield stock. And now finally, here we are at the number 1 spot, and as I'm pretty sure every single one of you guessed, the new best weapon in the entire game is the M79. And like I said, I don't think this is getting nerfed, but right now you can go in game, get PhD, get the thumper, and pretty much sit on any corner in any map and get to whatever round you want. In some maps, this is better than the wonder weapon. I would say that the thumper is probably better than the Ray K. It's probably better than the Die Shockwave. I don't know about the Cerberus. The Cerberus is pretty strong, but just the thing about it is it doesn't do as much damage as a weapon like the ray gun, but it has such a longer radius. So you're damaging so many more zombies than you will per shot than what you will with the ray gun. And it allows you to, even on health cap, sit in pretty much any corner just spamming it, because it also stuns the zombies. And at any skill level, you can pretty much pick up this weapon, and the fact that it stuns all the zombies affected by it, it's just absolutely absurdly insane. It is so much better than everything else in the game. The only downside is this is a garbage weapon to spawn in with. When you spawn in with this weapon, you don't have PhD, and you can take away half of your health by just shooting it next to you. So what I recommend is spawning in with this weapon, picking up the Diamattis off the wall, since they're a wall weapon on pretty much every map. That way, you have the highest DPS bullet weapon in the entire game for when you find stuff like that. And then you've got the Thumper as your backup. And the best part is you can put ammo mods on this. So you can slap on whatever. On this map, I run Brain Rot when I'm playing Forsaken, because it means you get to do additional elemental damage to the Abomination boss. Same thing. If I'm playing D Machina, I put Dead Wire on, because you can now do additional damage when shooting whatever the biggest boss is. So whatever the biggest boss of the map is, I put whatever element weak it's weak to on the Thumper, and that is a perfect combination. And another thing that makes this so good, unlike Wonder Weapons where, well, right now is the Halloween event, so this is a bad example, but once the Halloween event ends, to be able to get the ray gun, you can sometimes spend upwards of 2 to 3 hours buying the box if you've got bad luck. And no joke, I spent 2 to 3 hours at times buying the box for a video and just not getting the ray gun. Since you can spawn in with this, you will never have to buy the box or worry about trying to get out of the box, because you can guaranteed have it every single game. And it is absolutely just probably one of the best ways to end Cold War off here. I'm pretty sure they did this on purpose. Since we're moving into Vanguard, you know what? Let us have our fun. Bring back just the insane insanity of just super powerful weapons. And that is exactly what the M79 is, boys. But with that, I guess we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up here. So this is the current meta for Cold War Zombies, ranked out with the top 15 best weapons. And I have a feeling this list is going to hold true pretty much forever. With Treyarch working on Vanguard, I doubt they're going to come back and spend a whole lot of time balancing stuff here. The only thing I think that could potentially change is the brand new Hammer and Sickle melee weapon coming out next week. But like I said, I'm going to make a review for that weapon, and I'm going to tell you if it replaces the Sai or the E-Tool in their respective spots in that video for that. And I'll have that linked below after that comes out next week. But with that, guys, let me know your list. If you disagree with me, what do you disagree on? Leave me your top 15 below in order. That way we can get a wide array of opinions down there. But yeah, with that, guys, we're signing off with probably one of the last tier lists that I will be making for Cold War Zombies. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.
I want to take the last moment here to thank everybody who became a Twitch sub or a YouTube member, and extra special thanks to those who've taken above and beyond and became an Unlock Plus Plus member on YouTube. We've got Hunter Don Doe, we've got the most OP Gobblegum ever, Round Robin, and then we've got the true homie, Ryan the Slayer.